The Philadelphia Eagles take on the Carolina Panthers at home in a game where they are currently 14-point favorites. We're projecting for a game where the Eagles dominate the time of possession based on Carolina's league worst run defense going against an Eagles team hell-bent on running the ball. On the other side of the ball, Carolina is likely to struggle running against an Eagles defense that is third in yards per attempt allowed since their Week 5 bye. While Bryce Young's completion percentage of 60.4 since stepping back into the starting lineup in Week 8 ranks 30th out of 36 qualifying quarterbacks. The Eagles' defense is 11th in completion percentage allowed since their Week 5 bye. Having said that, our first bet is going to be Jalen Hurts under 25.5 pass attempts. When we look at this Philadelphia Eagles offense since Week 5, if you've been keeping up with this podcast and with this channel, you know that the Eagles have been running at the highest rate in the NFL. The Eagles' pass rate, conversely, is the lowest in the NFL, and since their Week 5 bye, it has been under 38% on average. Teams run at the Carolina Panthers at the highest rate in the NFL, and they allow the most rush yards per game as well. So I don't see any reason to think that this Carolina Panthers defense is going to stop the Eagles from trying to really run the ball. And then you add into it, Jadeveon Clowney is out, and while he isn't the greatest pass rusher in the world, he's a pretty good run defender. With him being out as well, it just further fuels the belief that the Eagles are going to be able to run the ball pretty well throughout this game. Since the Week 5 bye, Jalen Hurts on his own is averaging 21.5 pass attempts. We're projecting for 21.3 pass attempts in a full game, but there's room for this number to go much lower considering Jalen might not play in the fourth quarter or might not play in parts of the fourth quarter if the Eagles do get up big. Jalen has hit the under on his pass attempt prop in 7 of 8 games since the bye week, and he has, in specific, hit under 25.5 pass attempts in 7 of the 8 games as well. This line is really set at Jalen's season average for pass attempts, which is 25.3, so I see great value on the under here. Moving on to our next bet, it is going to be Kenneth Gainwell over 20.5 rushing yards. Now, this is going to pair partly with what we talked about, Carolina having a really bad run defense, the Eagles loving to run the ball, and just this is going to be a game where the Eagles lead in time of possession, right? Or it most likely will be. I think everyone's going to be looking at Saquon Barkley, and I would love to give out Saquon Barkley's rushing prop, but his line is set at 111.5 yards. That is just ridiculously high. It was a whole lot more fun taking Saquon Barkley rushing props when it was set at 78.5 earlier in the season, and then you could take the alternate line to 100 plus, but there's just not a whole lot of value in this number anymore. I think he can easily eclipse this mark, but he might not play until the fourth quarter. He didn't hit his numbers. He only got like 14 rush attempts against the Cowboys in a game where they were projected to win big, and he didn't play in the fourth quarter. Now, conversely, there's another game against the Giants where he went for 176 yards and didn't play in the fourth quarter. So, he could easily hit this number, but it's just hard for me to give that number out. Having said that, we can look at Kenneth Gainwell, and since the bye week, since the Week 5 bye, he is averaging 5.3 carries per game and 25.3 yards per game. But in games where Saquon Barkley doesn't play in the fourth quarter, he has averaged 10 carries and 43 yards per game. Last week, in a close game against the Ravens, Kenneth Gainwell had 0 carries. When these games are projected to be tight, that's when you see less of Kenny G. But we're projecting for the Eagles to beat the Carolina Panthers by more than one possession, so we should see some more Kenneth Gainwell carries. Now, again, Carolina, league worst run defense, teams run at the highest rate against, so just in general, we're projecting for more rushing attempts overall. In this game, I'm projecting Kenneth Gainwell for 8 carries for 37 yards. And since the Week 5 bye, Kenneth Gainwell has gone over 20.5 rushing yards in 5 of 8 games. Much like the Saquon Barkley prop, I really enjoyed taking the Kenneth Gainwell props when he was projected to get 8.5 yards or 13.5 yards. The value's a little bit gone out of these numbers when they're this high up, but at this point in the season, there's not a whole lot of values left in a lot of these numbers. Vegas has caught up to a number of these numbers, so it's just there's just not a lot of value this late in the season. So we really have to scratch and search for some. Having said that, I want to look at some Carolina Panthers props. Normally, I'd like to throw in an opposing team prop, but it's just very hard to project who is going to be playing or what percentage of snaps these guys are going to be playing and what their target shares have been with how many guys that have just been in and out of the lineup for the Carolina Panthers, whether it's been their quarterback, their receivers, their tight ends, their running back, there's just been a lot of changeover in this Carolina offense throughout the year. I do lean under on most props. Again, a lot of it is going to be because of Carolina playing behind in time of possession. The Eagles' defense has been a top 5, really a top 2 defense since the bye week. So all of that leans into it. I lean under on Bryce Young passing props. I'm projecting for 191.7 yards. Vegas has been around 194.5, but it's fluctuating depending on the book. I lean under on their wide receiver props as well. Thielen's projecting for, or excuse me, I'm projecting Thielen for 43.1 yards. Vegas is at 45.5. Xavier Legette, I'm projecting for 34.7 yards. Vegas projecting at 35.5. David Moore projecting for 29.8 yards. Vegas has him at 33.5. So there's not a whole lot of value I can see here, but I do lean under on Carolina props. But having said that, I do lean over on Chuba Hubbard's rushing yards. I'm currently projecting him for 14.3 carries. Vegas has him at 13.5. A lot of this has to do with the Eagles' run defense, but also Jonathan Brooks coming back into the fold. We saw Chuba Hubbard's running back carry share drop last week to about 66%. So we are starting to see Jonathan Brooks get worked in a little bit more, but I feel like some of these numbers have come down just a little bit too much. I'm projecting him for 58.2 rushing yards. Vegas has him at 52.5. But here's the thing. With Jonathan Brooks working back into the lineup, that creates uncertainty. We think that he should probably continue getting more carries and more of the running back split, and the gotta have it moments last week, Jonathan Brooks didn't play a single snap in the fourth quarter or in overtime against the Buccaneers. So he's really being used more as a rotational back. And is that going to continue being the case right now? I think more so in the passing game is where you're going to see a bigger split. Chuba Hubbard is actually seeing a big increase in percentage of running back routes run since the Miles Sanders injury. He was averaging 61.2% of the running back routes run before the Miles Sanders injury. Since he is averaging 83.9% of the running back routes run share. A big part of that is likely due to the fact that they now have a rookie that is working into the lineup. And as we see oftentimes with rookie running backs, if you're not very good in pass protection or you can't be trusted in pass protection, they're probably going to put in the veteran out there. So I don't see a whole lot value-wise on the Carolina Panthers props either. Again, this is just what happens once you get later and later into the season. Having said that, I'm going to jump back to another Eagles prop. And this last one I'm going to go with is Kenneth Gainwell, longest rush, over 9.5 yards. I saw this one on DraftKings. I'm sure you can find it at other sports books as well. If you can find a Saquon Barkley longest rush, I would likely take that, but I haven't really seen any of those since about midweek. A lot of them got taken down or not even put up in general. But Kenneth Gainwell, get this, leads all running backs an explosive run rate, which are runs of 10 plus yards or more. And that's for running backs with a minimum of 45 carries. Kenneth Gainwell has 47 carries this year. It helps that he gets a lot of the like 3rd and 20 draw attempts where the defense is playing pass. And 3rd and 20, there's not a whole lot of plays that you can run. So you end up handing the ball to your running back and they can break off chunk gains against a defense that is playing the sticks, playing 20 yards down the field. But it also helps that he's running behind this Eagles offensive line as well. So, you have to take that into account. Since the week 5 bye, he is averaging 1.25 explosive runs per game. He's averaging 2.5 in the games where Saquon Barkley doesn't play in the fourth quarter. And the Carolina Panthers run defense is 17th in explosive run rate allowed. So we should see some increased carries for Kenneth Gainwell. And he has been hitting explosive run rates at a higher clip than any running back in the NFL. So we're taking Kenneth Gainwell, longest rush, over 9.5 yards. But that will be it for this week's Best Bets. We will be back again next week. But as always, good luck to everyone out there.